Well, you know what they say about what audiences are looking for from things like movies, that we crave a balance between the comfort of familiarity and the excitement of novelty. Meaning we're looking for experiences that are well known to us, but also offer new stuff in an exciting new way. This is known as the familiar yet different paradox, and it is this delicate balance that has allowed us to tell the same handful of stories with the same handful of themes for over a century in Hollywood and for several millennia of storytelling before that. But the tricky part of this balancing act is not only making the familiar part actually comforting, we're looking at you, Disney Star Wars, but making the new parts actually exciting. And this is where a lot of movies fail. There is very little in this world that is more comfortingly familiar than watching Jason Statham redshirt some bad guys, which he does to the extreme in his latest movie, A Working Man. But does this latest effort from the man who is his own genre have enough excitement in its novelty to recommend it? Well... All right. Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Tyler. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, especially that subscribe button, because I've got a chocolate chip pancake goal, which I'm going to tell you about later. Has to do with me not having had a drink in quite some time, but I still crave sugar. So, all right. Today we are talking A Working Man. A Working Man was directed by David Ayer, who, of course, also did End of Watch, Fury, Suicide Squad, and most recently, The Beekeeper, which also starred Jason Statham. The screenplay for A Working Man was co-written by David Ayer and Sylvester Stallone, of all people, and is based on the first book in a series of books by Chuck Dixon. The series is about a former Special Ops Marine named Levin Cade who has left the military behind to live a quiet life working construction and focusing on being a good dad for his daughter. He's just trying to mind his own and live his best, but he keeps getting pulled into the often violent shenanigans of the other people in his world. So Levin Cade is kind of like if Jack Reacher had an address and a kid. I don't think Jack Reacher has a kid. Does Jack Reacher have a kid? What's that? I don't have a producer or an assistant to look this stuff up for me. It's just me here. Okay. We'll figure that out later. So anyway, Levin Cade is maybe kind of like Jack Reacher, but with an address and a kid. And in this first story in the series, he gets pulled back in when his construction boss's daughter gets kidnapped by some Russian mob guys. Levin agrees to get the daughter back for his boss, who is played by Michael Pena, wasted here, and who offers to pay Levin for his help. After dropping off his daughter with an old military buddy who is played by David Harbour, also completely wasted here in a nothing role, Levin follows one bad guy to the next, and then the next, and then the next, kicking ass and cracking quips along the way. And this kind of stuff is normally very awesome, very comforting, cathartic even, watching Jason Statham do his stuff. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of exciting novelty here. All right, first of all, this movie could have been 15 to 20 minutes shorter. Second of all, I guess we typically have a certain amount of leeway when it comes to action movies. You know, we're not expecting them to be like all-time banger classics every time, and we're not expecting them to like redefine the genre. But I guess what we're looking for is, you know, smash some heads, great one-liners, and find fun new ways to do it along the way. Oh, and don't make it repetitive or boring or insult our intelligence. It's kind of all we need. And look, I'm not saying that you're not going to find any joy in A Working Man here. It is a Jason Statham flick, but the action isn't great. It's too close up. There's too much handheld, and the dialogue isn't quite cracking.
Do you know who we are? People whose mommy dresses them funny.
It's one of these movies that decided that it needs to have certain things in it and then like put them in and crammed everything else in around it. Sense be damned. For example, and this epitomizes how much of this movie operates in the scene structure, in the dialogue, in the payoffs. And this is non-spoilery, but there's a part where Levin needs to track somebody, this bartender. So he puts one of these tracking devices, magnets it to the back of the guy's car. And of course, the tracking device has one of those bright red blinking lights that can be seen by anybody. And that's whatever. That's an age-old movie trope that, owing to strict convention, will not be detected by the driver of the car. The problem is, Levin puts the tracking device on the guy's car, then goes across the street and sits in his car and watches this bartender leave work, get in his car, and then leave. So Levin's following behind this guy, and he's got this little computer display with this little tracking beacon that's showing up in the display. The problem is he literally just follows the guy home. He never loses sight of him. He just follows the bartender from the bar home, watches him get out of his car and go inside. Then Levin gets out of his car and goes and takes the tracking device off the guy's car. Again, this is how a lot of the movie is structured. In the payoffs, in the way the scenes are structured, in the dialogue. It's like it was put in there because this stuff had to be in the movie, and then they just put everything else in. There's an all-out brawl between Levin and like 7 or 8 dudes at the construction site that's like impossibly witnessed by literally one person, the boss's daughter. And it's all close up. Like I said, we never get a wide shot of this because it would show how ridiculous it is, the idea that like an all-out brawl would go unnoticed on a construction site in midday downtown Chicago. There are some bright spots in this movie, though. Jason Fleming is being one of them. Jason Fleming is the guy who was one of the best parts of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. If you ever watched that one, he was fantastic as Dr. Jekyll / Mr. Hyde, and is easily one of the best parts of this movie. He plays this like manicky, panicky Russian mob boss guy with this just fantastic, stereotypical Russian villain accent.
Who are you? What are you?
This guy does more acting with his eyes alone than most actors do with their entire bodies. Unfortunately, and this part is kind of spoilery, he gets dispatched kind of early. He's in the movie for like 10 minutes and then he's gone. Even more unfortunately, he's replaced by this guy who's supposed to be like a higher up, like a heavier hitter in this like mob outfit. But he's like infinitely less interesting to watch than the guy he replaced, Jason Fleming, who was absolutely fascinating. So that was disappointing. Another highlight for me was actually one of the other Russian mob boss guys, played by a guy named Maximilian Osinski. He plays this character named Demi. Maximilian Osinski, some people might recognize as the character Zava from Ted Lasso. He was really good here. I thought he was pretty funny. It was a really good performance. There was one hilarious moment when he introduces himself to Levin, though. He's this Russian dude named Demi, and he says, my name is Demi. And he sounds a lot like that Channing Tatum meme from 21 Jump Street.
My name is Jeff.
After that, though, I really liked this guy. I thought he was really entertaining. Another bright spot, literally, was this giant fake moon that they used, and that they kept using throughout the movie. I had seen this set photo a few days ago or a few weeks ago on X, and it was a set photo of Hattie's Saloon, which is this bar that's used as a location in the movie. They had on set, they had put up this huge moon, this light up moon. This thing must be like 8-10 feet in diameter. And it's on this huge metal frame so they can move it around. And the set photo looked really cool. You could see like the cameras, the crew people working around. There was this huge moon in the background. And when I saw the movie, I noticed the moon and I leaned over to my buddy and I said, man, that's a great shot of the moon. It's a fake moon. Thing is, that moon kept popping up like everywhere. Like if it was nighttime, that moon was going to be there. There's a fight scene like in a meadow in this forest, and behind him, just over the horizon, this just comically ginormous moon. And then a couple of scenes later, they're in a totally different spot. And I know the moon shows up everywhere, but it was just like, there's no way the moon is hanging right over the saloon, and then it's just above the horizon so that these guys can be silhouetted against it as they're fighting. Fantastic moon. I kind of want one for my room. In this movie, though, it was kind of like the mole on Prince John's face in Robin Hood Men in Tights. It just kept like moving around. There's a side story about Jason Statham's daughter. He's got a daughter. His wife is no longer around. She's passed. Statham's character, Levin, is fighting for custody of his daughter with his ex-wife's, his late wife's dad. For some reason, who's there really just to tell us what a bad guy he thinks Levin is. So, one-dimensional stuff here, just so we can have a reason to sympathize with Levin Cade, who loves his daughter. His daughter obviously loves him. But there's this whole side story here about how he's fighting for custody with his late wife's dad. That's just kind of silly. The daughter is adorable. There's no love interest in this one, and that's kind of refreshing too. You know, we don't always need a love interest crammed into these kind of proceedings. Yeah, straight up action flick, just barrels its way through. For all intents and purposes, A Working Man can and maybe should be considered a January release level movie. It was originally going to be released in January of this year under the title Levin's Trade, but the title and the release date were changed to March shortly after the presidential election in November of 2024. It kind of feels like it was an attempt to maybe appeal more broadly to the working class audience that the producers of the film may have suddenly felt were a more enticing slice of the socio-demographics of the audience. That, or they realized that the movie wasn't going to be good enough to warrant further installments and dropped the title connection to a series of books to avoid the embarrassment of the movie being the first and only in a failed franchise launch. So to recap, A Working Man. Jason Statham is as reliable as ever and does what he can with the material. The action, though, wasn't particularly good, and neither was the comedy, nor the quips. Jason Fleming and Maximilian Osinski were both a lot of fun in their roles. I have no idea why Michael Penny was in this movie. I have no idea why David Harbour was in this movie. Neither of them are used particularly well. They each get about 5 minutes of screen time, and they aren't given much to do. We got Russians in tracksuits. And we have the ex-military hero of our story dispatching a sandwich bag full of blue rock narcotics by throwing it into a stream. Literally. He just tosses what looks like dissolvable poisonous rock candy into a stream to get rid of it. Does the hero of our story in this one. Anyway, do we smell franchise cooking here? Well, yeah and no. Yes, Jason Statham is going to keep making movies like this, but no, he's not going to be named Levin Cade. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. By the way, I have made a deal with myself because I have not had a drink in a while, but I still crave sugar. When I hit 1,500 subscribers, I am going to sit down with a comfort movie like The Goonies or Gremlins, and I am going to eat a plate full of chocolate chip pancakes until I get a tummy ache because I'm 5 years old. No, I feel pretty good about not having had a drink and still crave the sugar. It's really easy to go overboard. I could have chocolate chip pancakes and ice cream and cupcakes and Sour Patch Kids and crap like that every day, but I would start looking like I did in my first year of college pretty quickly. So 1,500 subscribers, that is my goal, and then I'm going to have my chocolate chip pancakes. So like the video if you liked it. Consider hitting subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.